In a peaceful monastery nestled among the hills, there lived a wise monk named Master G. He was known for his calm nature, sharp wisdom, and the way he helped everyone in the monastery to understand the deeper truths of life. His disciples were eager to learn and often came to him for guidance. One morning, as the sun rose behind the hills, casting a golden light across the courtyard, Master G gathered his disciples in the meditation hall. The hall was peaceful and quiet, the air fragrant with incense. The young monks sat on their mats, ready for the morning lesson. Master G entered the room, holding something in his hand. The disciples saw that the monk was holding a small, delicate object, a golden needle shining brightly in the light. Master G spoke softly. "Today, I have a lesson for you. This is a special needle, a golden needle. I want each of you to try and thread this needle. Whoever can do it will receive a gift of wisdom. But be warned, threading this needle is not an easy task." The monks stared at the needle, intrigued. They had all heard of Master G's wisdom, but none of them had ever seen him offer something like this before. They wondered what this challenge could mean. Was it a test of skill, patience, or something else? Without a word, the first monk, named Ren, stood up. Ren was known for his speed and eagerness to prove himself. He approached the needle confidently, his hands trembling slightly. He grabbed the needle and quickly began to try and push the thread through the tiny hole. But no matter how hard he tried, the thread wouldn't go in. His hands shook with frustration. He tried again and again, but he could not thread the needle. After a few more failed attempts, Ren sighed in frustration. "This is impossible," he muttered, putting the needle down and sitting back on his mat. Next, the monk Wei stood up. Wei was always calm and thoughtful. He believed that the solution to everything lay in careful thinking. He took a deep breath and picked up the needle, staring at it for a moment. "Patience," he thought, "is the key." Wei held the needle carefully, looking closely at the small hole. He took a piece of thread, lined it up with the needle, and gently tried to push the thread through. But no matter how carefully he approached it, the thread would slip away and he couldn't thread it. Frustrated but determined, Wei tried again and again, his face growing tense with concentration. Sweat beaded on his forehead as his fingers fumbled with the needle. The other monks watched him struggle, but no one said a word. Finally, after much effort, Wei gave up, his hands shaking from the strain. "I cannot do it," he said softly, returning to his seat. Next, a young monk named Kai stepped forward. Kai was known for his strong will and his desire to succeed. He picked up the needle with a sense of determination. "I will not fail," he thought. "I will try harder." Kai took the needle and began to force the thread into the small hole. His movements were quick and impatient. He pulled the thread roughly, trying to push it through with all his might. But the more he rushed, the harder it became. The thread tangled and twisted, and the needle slipped from his hand. He grew angry, slamming his fist on the floor in frustration. The other monks watched in silence, their faces reflecting the same frustration. They had seen their fellow monks struggle, and they too were feeling the weight of failure. Master G remained calm, watching them all carefully. Finally, after all the others had tried and failed, a quiet monk named Jen stood up. Jen was the youngest and least experienced of the disciples, but he had always been a peaceful soul. He had a quiet confidence and never rushed through anything. While the others were busy trying to force the needle through, Jin took a deep breath. He stepped toward the needle slowly, as if he had all the time in the world. Jin didn't look at the needle immediately. Instead, he looked around the room, taking in the stillness. He closed his eyes for a moment, and in his mind, he cleared away all thoughts of winning or failing. His mind was calm. He held the needle gently, not with force, but with grace. With great patience, he picked up a piece of thread and carefully lined it up with the needle. Jen took his time, without rushing or forcing anything. His fingers moved slowly and deliberately, as if each movement was a prayer. He carefully placed the thread near the needle, and with one gentle push, the thread slipped through the tiny hole of the golden needle. The room was silent for a moment as Jen held up the needle, now threaded perfectly. The other monks stared at him, wide-eyed. They had all struggled, and yet Jen had done it with ease. Master G smiled and nodded. Jen, the monk said softly, you have shown us the true lesson of wisdom. It does not come from rushing or forcing things. Wisdom comes when we are patient, calm, and focused on the task at hand. You have taught us that the key to success lies not in how hard we try, but in how we approach the task, gently, quietly, and with perseverance. Jen stood silently, feeling a warmth in his heart. He had not expected to succeed, but he had learned something far more important than threading the needle. He had learned the value of patience and that true wisdom comes from within. The monks nodded, and Master G continued. Each of you has tried with great effort, and in your struggle, you have learned valuable lessons. But remember this. When you rush or act out of frustration, you cannot see clearly. Only when you are calm, at peace with yourself, and focused on the task without force, can you see the path ahead. It is the same with life. Rushing through life, chasing after things with force and impatience, will only lead to frustration. But when you take each step slowly and with focus, you will find wisdom in even the simplest